he just always cool.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No fool.
Sonic the Hedgehog made his debut on the Sega Genesis in 1991, becoming the company's mascot and direct competitor to Nintendo's Mario. As Sega's flagship franchise, Sonic spawned over 24 game titles, in addition to comics, animated series, and most recently, live-action films. The games are known for their high-speed platforming action, catchy music, and colorful and creative level design. Now, on his 30th anniversary, Sonic has finally arrived on the Commodore 64. Before we can play the game, we'll need a RAM expansion unit, or REU, like this Commodore 1750 or its CMD clone. Other REU alternatives include the 1541 Ultimate line of products or the Turbo Chameleon. The game requires a minimum expansion of 256K and joins a very small cadre of other REU enhanced titles, including Sam's Journey and Super Stardust. The REU is required not just because it adds more memory to the system. As we discussed back in episode 12 with the REU and Easy Flash showcase, Commodore RAM expansions contain a DMA controller that allows moving data into memory at much higher speeds without tying up the CPU. The game engine makes use of this feature to stream sprites and other data, as well as copy to and from the zero page quickly, enabling smooth full-screen scrolling at speeds never before seen on the system. This new C64 port is based on the Sega Master System version, so let's take a quick look at that first. The 64K bytes of game code was translated by hand from the original Z80 to the Commodore 6502 by the game's developer, Mr. Sid. Apart from the different CPU architecture, the Master System has a few other differences from the C64. Namely, it's able to display 32 colors on screen from a palette of 64, whereas the Commodore is only able to use 16. The Sega makes use of the venerable SN76489 sound chip that was found in many home systems and arcades at the time, and offers up 3 square waves and 1 noise generator. The SID chip, of course, has fully programmable waveforms, giving it the edge as we'll hear in a moment. So here are some A/B comparisons of the Master System version and the new C64 port. Apart from the aspect ratio difference and the 64's much more limited color palette, you can tell how much care was taken in this conversion. The level design is spot on and all 5 worlds are accounted for in their entirety. The world graphics and character sprites are so exactingly translated to the VIC-2, it's amazing to behold. But just wait until you see it in motion. First things first, look how smooth the motion is. The controls are responsive and the physics feel spot on. There is no doubt that this is Sonic the Hedgehog. I had my doubts that the game engine could go any faster than this, but I'm glad to have been proven wrong. With the Power Sneaker pickup, the scrolling speed really does increase dramatically. And if you think that's all this REU-powered engine has up its sleeve, well, hold on to your britches. You just saw that, right? On a Commodore 64. The SID soundtrack was scored by Encore. While the music is a faithful rendition of the Master System's original, I absolutely prefer this version. The SID is far more versatile, and all the music in this port has been masterfully composed and sounds amazing. The graphics in this conversion were made by Vito. Sonic himself is comprised of 4 separate sprites, so sprite multiplexing is used. It's all pulled off seamlessly though, and I dare say there's less lag than an NTSC Master System. More on that in a bit though. The bonus stages really show off how mind-blowingly fast the scroll speeds in this game engine actually are. When Super Mario Bros. Was ported to the 64 back in 2019, that blew everyone away, and rightfully so. But this port ups the ante even higher. With this technical tour de force being the new high watermark, are there any remaining 8-bit console titles that would be impossible for the 64? I guess only time will tell. I said it before, but all the levels are here and they're faithful to the source material. Truly a Herculean effort by Mr. Sid, Vito, and Encore. This port will run on period-correct hardware, so you don't need anything that didn't exist in the 80s. Just a Commodore and an REU. CPU acceleration does help when running at NTSC 60Hz, and we'll look at some options for that shortly. The attention to detail in the worlds really is impressive. This port even has animated sunflowers like the Genesis version, something that's not even found on the Master System. The sprite work is similarly remarkable, as Sonic looks up and down, taps his foot in irritation, or slips and slides on hazards. As a final note, all the boss fights are present, as are the end-of-level animations where Sonic frees the captured critters. Even the end-of-game victory sequence is included. Apologies to PAL users, but Sonic is all about speed. I'm sure this will ruffle some feathers, but I really can't stand the down-tempo music after having grown up with the Genesis version of the game. The creator of this port is from a PAL region, so I really do appreciate that it plays at the speed I'm used to here in NTSC land. So, what does it take to get this game to run on an NTSC machine besides an REU? Well, as it turns out, nothing really. When you start the game on a plain Jane 64, you will get this warning message indicating that it won't run at an optimal frame rate without some form of accelerator. Some options include the Commodore 128, a Super CPU, Ultimate 64, Turbo Chameleon, Mr. FPGA, or software emulator like Vice. In testing on an unaccelerated 64, I noticed a few audio and video glitches, but if I'm honest, nothing that detracted from the experience in any meaningful way. In fact, the controls are still sharp and responsive, and the game plays incredibly well at 60 Hz. Don't believe me? Then just watch this. Initially, there were a few bugs and general instability on this NTSC system, but they seem to have been addressed in the 1.1 release, and now the game runs great. The port can make use of the 128's faster CPU by switching it into 2 MHz when drawing the border. This can yield a 30% bump in performance while in 64 mode. Unfortunately, Commodore REUs don't support 2 MHz DMA, so your mileage may vary with modern replacements. I couldn't get turbo mode to work with my Ultimate 2 Plus, the game just crashes. A great way to play the game is on the Mr. FPGA's C64 core. To play the game at full speed, first enable NTSC mode in the menu. Then, turn on the 512K REU. By default, the core will utilize Dolphin DOS, which doesn't seem to work with the game. So, select the standard kernel instead. Finally, enable the core's Smart Turbo mode and select 2x speed. I found that this works perfectly, but 4x causes graphical glitches. Now, you can mount up the D81 image and enjoy the perfect C64 Sonic experience with low latency RGB output to your original Commodore CRT monitor. Speaking of the D81 image, the game has a built-in fast loader that supports not only the 1541, but the 1581 as well. If you have a 512K REU, you can preload all of the levels into RAM at the start of the game and forgo any further loading from the disk thereafter. The 1581 fast load routines are a nice inclusion. Just check out how fast the level data preloads when using the default C64 kernel. Another great way to play the game is with the Vice emulator. To play at full speed, first make sure you have an NTSC model selected. Then, under cartridge settings, enable the 512K REU. It's not necessary to save RAM to disk because the game does not detect a preloaded REU after a reboot. Finally, you can enable CPU acceleration here, or you could just use X128 instead, which will give you the needed speed boost. I did try saving the REU data on my Ultimate 2 Plus and using a freezer cart to dump the game at the main menu, with the idea of having an instant load option, but I haven't got it to work yet. And while I don't have either on hand to test, legend has it that Sonic runs just fine on the C64 Mini and Maxi as well. One final thing I want to mention is the built-in interactive game manual. This inclusion really highlights how polished this product is, a true AAA title on our beloved 40-year-old brown boxes. So there we have it. Sonic the Hedgehog on the Commodore 64. What more can I say that hasn't already been said? This is clearly a labor of love and an absolute technical triumph. What a great early Christmas present and an MCAP for what has truly been an amazing year in retro. I can't wait to see what happens in 2022. I hope you and yours have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday season. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next year.